I woke because the floor tightened around my ribs. That is not a sentence I had expected to use in any century. The cart was alive. Not alive like a horse or a tree. Alive like a trap that had learned patience. Pale reed roots formed the floor, walls, and arched roof. They had been woven while green, then fed something that made them pulse with a slow borrowed heartbeat. Every time I drew too deep a breath, the roots thickened against my chest. Gold paper talismans covered the knots. Their characters crawled when I tried to focus on them. We were already on the road. Wheels struck ruts beneath me. Hooves beat in disciplined groups outside. Dawn leaked through finger-wide gaps in the reeds, gray over wet fields. Willowbank was gone behind us. The last clear number in my memory was 24. Current essence, 24. Level, 1. Body, 8, speed, 6, spirit, 3, perception, 6, will, 8. The rest of the report was less encouraging. Puncture through left thigh, stabilized and reopened at the edges. Rib fracture, unchanged. Right shoulder tear, stabilized. Left forearm arrow wound, stabilized. Side cut crusted but not closed. Back and thigh muscle tearing from furnace muscle. Palm abrasion with opposing energy burn. Blood loss. Eye strain. Calf and foot strain from unsafe windstep. No passive full repair detected. Leveling does not restore injuries. I appreciated the reminders. The roots did not. A white loop at my ankles contracted. 4 points of essence tore out of both cores and vanished into the cart. Containment transfer drain, 4. Current essence, 20. The roots relaxed by half an inch. Someone across from me said, "Do not fight its breathing." The translation arrived late and incomplete. Do not, breathing. The speaker sat behind 3 layers of reed lattice, a narrow man with a shaved forehead and rope burns around both wrists. His left eye was swollen shut. An iron fairy token hung from his neck. I answered slowly. Does it drain everyone? Clear speech helped. The coarse caught sound, intent carried by tone, and whatever pattern passed for language here. The sense reached me a heartbeat after the words. It worked best when one person faced me and spoke plainly. Cart talismans smeared the edges. Wheel noise, overlapping voices, pain, and unfamiliar dialect turned whole sentences into loose stones. The man understood me no better than I understood him at first. I repeated the question and pointed at the roots. Only those with spirit, he said. For me, it drinks heat. For you, it is afraid. That last word came through cleanly. A woman beside him gave a dry laugh. She was perhaps 50, broad-handed, with gray tied into a knot and a strip of torn sleeve wrapped around her head. No. The wardens are afraid. Wood has no rank. The roots tightened around her waist as if offended. She slapped them. See? No rank. The narrow man looked at me. Chow run. Reed Ferry. He touched his chest, then pointed to the woman. Su Lien. South Bank herb seller. A third prisoner occupied the rear corner, built like someone who had spent his life lifting sacks. His beard was burned short on one side. A bronze army buckle remained on his belt though the belt itself had been cut. Duan he said. Former stable guard. Presently cargo. That translated perfectly. Some complaints survive any magic. I gave my name. None of them reacted to it as a title. Good. The living cart held 4 of us. Outside, another wagon squealed whenever the road bent. Through the gaps I saw chained boots and gray uniforms. Captain Luo and the 7 surviving core hunters from Willowbank were in ordinary iron cages behind us. Zhao had separated them from the people they had collared. The freed victims, including Gon, had remained in Willowbank under field treatment. No villager had been ordered onto this road. Unless someone had disobeyed. A supply cart rolled level with us for 3 breaths. Millet sacks. Clay jars tied in straw. A blue scarf showed between 2 sacks, then disappeared. I stared until pain warned me not to use dragon eyes. Lin Mei had ignored the sensible meaning of live and watch. I should have been angry. Mostly I was impressed and terrified in equal measure. Hooves approached our left side. A cavalry officer rode beside the cart, helmet tucked under one arm. He had a square face, 2 old cuts across his chin, and the posture of a man who expected carts to obey him. Vessel awake, he called. The words reached me through a talisman buzz. Inspector Zhao's horse came into view beyond him, white except for mud at the fetlocks. Zhao Yulan wore the same white robes beneath a traveling cloak. Her floating sword was gone, or concealed. That did not make the air around her less dangerous. She held a bamboo case wrapped in red cord. I shifted toward the gap. The roots tightened. Willowbank, I said. The square-faced officer snorted. Zhao raised one finger, and he stopped making noise. The protection order was copied at dawn, she said. Clear, measured speech crossed the interference better than anyone else's. One copy remains with Eldershan. One is carried to the Southern Registry by Lieutenant Gao. One remains in my evidence case. Read the condition. The officer leaned closer. You are a prisoner, not a magistrate. Then it should be easy to read a prisoner the rule holding his village. Zhao watched me through the reeds. She did not smile. She also did not ride away. The order protects Willowbank from grain seizure, collective punishment, and arrest without my seal while the Dragonfall inquiry remains open. The inquiry is provisionally attached to lawful containment of the Twin Dragon vessel and delivery of evidence to Blackreed Fort. There was the hook. If I escape? The convoy commander may declare the village a cooperating site in a vessel rebellion. The protection suspends until review. May? The square-faced officer answered. Will. Zhao's eyes shifted toward him. Captain Wen states his intention plainly. Captain Wen looked proud of that. I studied what I could see. His armor carried no corruption. Level 4 when Dragon Eyes touched him for less than a second. Old knee damage, good lungs, right-handed saber draw. That was all. Not loyalty. Not motive. Not what he would do tomorrow. Dragon Eyes could read visible bodies and active essence. It could not turn a cruel expression into evidence. Pain needled behind my eyes, and I shut the sight. Then your written protection is a leash tied around people who did not agree to wear it. It is a door held open inside a court that would prefer it shut, Zhao said. Do not confuse an imperfect barrier with no barrier. I thought of her words in Willowbank. Law with a blade. She believed the distinction mattered because sometimes it did. Make it independent. I do not yet have evidence strong enough to separate Willowbank's status from yours. Luo's ledger. Burned roofs. Collars. Witnesses. Evidence of his crimes. Not proof that the village will remain uninvolved if you flee. Behind her, Captain Wen rested a hand on his saber. The clean solution offered itself from my right core. Break the cart. Break Wen. Make fear faster than paper. Heat stirred behind my lung. The left core answered with cold. Preserve the village by remaining contained. Individuals inside the cart are secondary. Dominate or detach. The dragons remained consistent, which was not the same as being useful. I will reach the fort alive, I told Zhao. That is not the same as agreeing your leash is lawful. No, she said. It is not. Then she rode ahead. The prison cart breathed around me. 20 essence remained. Willowbank's order existed in 3 copies, and one sentence could still turn it into smoke. I had survived burning roofs with simpler problems. Xiaoran knew roads by their bumps. Stone culvert, he said when the left wheel rose twice. Mulberry bend after. Then the old salt marker. Blackreed Fort by tomorrow evening if they do not stop. Duan he listened to the cavalry instead. 46 mounted when we left the village. 8 forward. 12 rear. 2 ranks beside the evidence wagon. More were detached to carry orders and guard Willowbank. 45, Sulian said. Duan frowned. One rider has been walking his lame horse since sunrise. Mounted means mounted. They had been prisoners together for less than a day and already argued like a committee. That was useful. A frightened person sees one wall. 3 frightened people who keep disagreeing may eventually see a door. I asked how they had been taken. Xiao's ferry had carried laborers across the Reed River. Luo's men arrived with a sealed work order and took 6 passengers for spirit screening. Xiao protested, so they screened him too. His affinity was weak water, useful enough to imprison and too weak to license. Su Lian had treated fever in South Bank after a red mist settled over a drainage ditch. A magistrate clerk accused her of hiding corruption victims because she refused to surrender sick families to a collection wagon. Duan had served at Blackreed Fort. That made all of us quiet. Stable guard, he said. 2 years ago. Before Warden Pang grew the new cells. I deserted when I saw a man taken from the infirmary at night and returned without a shadow. The translation broke on his last phrase. Without a shadow might have meant without spirit, without memory, or simply dead. The talismans fluttered, and the sentence dissolved. What is the living cart? I asked. Duan touched a root with one knuckle. White grave reed grafted around a mirror leech spine. It senses essence movement. Struggle feeds the knots. Techniques feed them faster. Wardens use prisoners to test which grafts survive the road. I look down. Under the floor's pale weave, something dark flexed lengthwise between the axles. Not wood. A segmented cord as thick as my wrist, glossy as wet stone. Dragon eyes gave me 3 lines before the gold talismans blurred them. Containment organism, living prison graft. Visible affinity, suppression, hunger. Control points, 12 exterior talisman knots. Interior root response linked to central spine. No history. No hidden blueprint. No guarantee that cutting 12 knots would open the cage rather than crush us. Only what was visibly carrying essence in that moment. A cold ache spread from my left eye. I stopped. We need a count, I said. Duan nodded. 12 knots. 4 corners, 4 roof, 4 underframe. Whitesword riders inspect them every 100 breaths. Xiao added, the front left roof knot is frayed. Su Lian said, the rear underframe knot tightens when he coughs. She pointed at me. Your blood woke it. I checked my side. The cut had opened against a root. Dark blood soaked the edge of my shirt. My left thigh throbbed with each wheel strike. The full list of injuries had become a working crew of its own, each taking turns causing trouble. Mending breath offered its known terms. Stabilization pulse, 5 essence. Local bleeding control and support only. Full treatment, 15 essence. Broader stabilization of serious connected wounds. Does not regenerate destroyed tissue, replace lost blood, or restore exhausted muscle. Current essence, 20. A full treatment might hold the thigh side and shoulder through the day if I could guide it well. It would leave 5 essence in a cart designed to drain me. 1 pulse would handle the side but not the puncture or back tearing. In a clinic, I would have chosen complete care. In a moving spiritual cage with 45 cavalry, medicine and tactics shared the same pocket. Su Lian watched my hand hover over the side wound. You have a healing art. A stabilizing art. Good answer. Healers who promise too much bury people. I spent 5. Cold flowed from the azure core into the cut along my ribs. I kept it narrow. The bleeding slowed. The flesh did not close like a zipper. No lost blood returned. My hands grew colder, and the root nearest the wound recoiled from the sudden chill. Current essence, 15. Su Lian leaned forward. Again. 15 for full treatment. Not on you. She pointed toward Xiao's left wrist. A reed barb had entered beneath his rope burn and was moving under the skin. Xiao had hidden it by sitting on his hand. Why did you not say something? I asked. Because the cart drinks techniques, and I prefer 1 dead wrist to 4 dead prisoners. Reasonable. Wrong, but reasonable. The barb pulsed black under his skin. Dragon eyes showed visible contamination following a vein toward the elbow. Not his thoughts, not the outcome, only a dark thread that had not been there when he introduced himself. I reached for him. The roots between us rose like fingers. No technique, Duan warned. The cart's central spine flexed below our feet. I used ordinary first aid first. Su Lian tore a clean strip from the inside of her robe. Duan braced Xiao's forearm between both knees. I pinched the skin around the barb, but my burned palm twitched when it touched the suppression residue. The thing retreated deeper. Crimson suggested heat. Ember fist, 5 essence. A heat pulse might kill the barb. It might cook Xiao's vein. The system offered cost, not judgment. Su Lian? I asked. She examined the dark line, sniffed the tiny bead of fluid at the puncture, and said, cold slows grave reed. Heat makes it seed. Local knowledge beat the dragon's appetite. I used 1 mending breath stabilization pulse on Xiao. 5 essence. Cold surrounded the puncture and slowed the black thread before it reached his elbow. Su Lian cut the skin with a sharpened fairy token while Duan held him. Xiao bit his own sleeve and did not shout. I caught the barb with 2 fingernails and drew it out. It was 3 inches long by the time it cleared his wrist. Current essence, 10. The cart reacted. All 12 knots flashed through the walls. The central spine struck upward. Roots wrapped my wrists, Xiao's throat, Su Lian's waist, and Duan's injured shoulder. Still. Duan barked. We stopped fighting at once. The roots kept tightening. That was new. Outside, a bell rang at the head of the convoy. Horses whinnied. The forward riders shouted over one another, and translation broke into fragments. Road. Blood. Left trees. Ready. Captain Wen's command cut through the noise. Cage secure. Formation outward. A smell entered through the reed gaps, rotten pond water and burned hair. Something hit the supply cart where Lin Mei was hiding. The impact lifted 2 wheels off the road. Millet sacks burst into the ditch. A blue scarf flashed under them. Then a gray shape with 6 jointed legs landed on the living prison roof, and every hungry root around my body pulled tight. The creature above us stabbed through the reeds with one hooked leg. Duan caught my shoulder and pulled. The point missed my neck by an inch, punched through the floor, and struck the dark spine beneath. The living cart convulsed. Roots released us, then clamped again in the wrong places. Xiao could breathe. Su Lian could not. I drove both hands between the root and her throat. Body 8 gave me leverage. Torn back muscles took payment for it. Outside, cavalry sabers left scabbards in a single metal rush. Reed prowlers. Captain Wen shouted. 6 in the trees. 3 on the road. Protect the evidence wagon. 9 enemies. Good count. Bad situation. The one on our roof tore its leg free. Through the gap I saw a body built like a hunting cat from gray reeds and animal bone. 6 legs bent sideways. A human corruption collar had been wired around its middle, but no human shape remained beneath it. Black pond vapor streamed from joints that clicked too fast. Dragon eyes caught what was visible. Grave reed prowler. Level 2. Carried essence, 14. Affinity, rotten water. Visible weakness, collar wire anchors all 6 leg bundles. Then it moved out of sight, and the information ended. No path appeared through the roof. No prediction told me where it would stab next. Watch shadows, Xiao said. Thin daylight moved across the floor. One hooked leg hovered above Duan. Now! He rolled. The leg punched down. Su Lian wrapped her cloth strip around it. Xiao caught the other end. They pulled in opposite directions, pinning the limb for 1 breath. I had 10 essence. Ember Fist cost 5. Wind Step cost 20 and would fail inside roots even if I could afford it. Mending Breath would not break wire. I spent 5 on Ember Fist. Heat tightened through my right palm and into the reed leg. The prison cart hated the technique. Gold knots drank at the edge of the pulse, weakening it. My burned palm blistered under old opposing energy damage. Still, heat reached the collar wire above the roof. Pull. Xiao and Su Lian hauled. The hot wire cut through its own reed body. The prowler screamed without lungs. Duan braced both feet against the wall and kicked the trapped limb upward. Something cracked on the roof. A royal saber struck twice. The creature rolled off the cart and vanished under hooves. The system waited until the collar wire snapped and the hostile corruption stopped moving. Shared hostile defeat confirmed. Dragon essence gained, 8. Current essence, 13. Not 14. Transfer loss again. The cavalry blade had finished the body, but we had broken the control point. Meaningful participation counted. Helpless killing would not have. A horse screamed on our right. The convoy lurched to a halt so hard that Xiao hit the rear wall. The ordinary prisoner wagon behind us slammed into the evidence cart. Iron bars bent. One of Luo's soldiers shouted for help. No one answered him. A second prowler landed against our side. Its legs probed through the lattice like needles searching cloth. Captain Wen's riders formed a ring around Zhao and the evidence wagon. That left the supply carts exposed. Lin Mei's cart had tipped into the ditch. I could see one axle spinning above the reeds. No blue scarf. No body. Girl? Su Lian asked. I had not realized she had followed my eyes. Willowbank Scout. Prisoner? Not officially. Then she has better judgment than us. A knife blade appeared through the outside of our rear wall. It was narrow, chipped at the tip, and moving against the red cord of a talisman knot. Lin Mei. She cut halfway through the cord, stopped when a rider passed, then cut again. Her face appeared between roots, streaked with millet dust. She looked at me once, pointed toward the roof, and held up 3 fingers. 3 prowlers around our cart. I pointed at the 12 knots and showed her the frayed front left roof cord Xiao had identified. She nodded. No argument. No heroic speech. She vanished under the cart before Captain Wen could see her. The side prowler drove 2 limbs through at once. Duan caught one with his ankle chain. Xiao took the other across the upper arm. The hook opened him from shoulder to elbow. Blood sprayed the pale roots. The prison woke hungry. Every interior strand turned toward Xiao. Su Lian threw herself across him and pressed both hands to the wound. Pulse, she told me. I had 13 essence. One stabilization pulse would leave 8. The cart had already proved it could drain 4 without asking. Xiao's blood was feeding the thing that held all of us. I spent 5. Mending breath entered Xiao's arm in a narrow cold band. Bleeding slowed. It did not replace what had hit the floor. It did not mend the full claw track. Su Lian bounded tight over the pulse while Duan hauled the hooked leg downward with his chain. Current essence, 8. The second prowler pulled. Duan's ankle struck the wall. Bone did not break, but the shackle tore skin. Wire, he shouted. I saw the collar anchor through the roof gap. My ember fist had ended. 5 more would leave 3, and my right palm was already burned. We needed ordinary mechanics. Xiao, fairy token. His face had gone gray. He understood anyway. He passed me the sharpened bronze token. I wedged it between collar wire and reed leg. Duan twisted his chain around my wrist and pulled sideways. Su Lian planted one heel against the wall and pushed my shoulder. The token bent. The wire lifted. A sling stone hit the anchor from outside. The wire snapped. The prowler fell away under a cavalry horse. Lin Mei did not wait to admire the shot. She slid beneath the next wagon as an arrow from the tree struck where her head had been. Shared defeat confirmed. Dragon essence gained, 10. Current essence, 18. The third prowler on our cart changed tactics. Instead of reaching through, it seized the roof with all 6 limbs and pulled. The living reeds groaned. Gold talismans flared. The roof began to peel away from the wall. That should have been our escape. It was not. Outside, royal riders had nets ready. Beyond them, 6 more prowlers moved between mulberry trunks. If the roof opened, I would be restrained again before my injured leg cleared the cart. Worse, the 3 prisoners beside me would be exposed to creatures drawn by my cores. Azure spoke with calm contempt. Let the roof fail. Move alone. Their deaths reduce pursuit. My left eye went cold. Crimson answered, burn the cart and everything touching it. My right hand smoked. No, I said to both. Duan thought I meant him. Then give a better order. Good point. The cart tightens on essence movement, I said. The prowler is feeding the roof knots from outside. We let the cart bite it. Xiao stared. How? Make it think I am using a technique at the front. When it tightens, Lin Mei cuts the rear knot. Load shifts. That is not a how. That is a prayer wearing boots. Do you have a better one? He looked at the roof lifting over our heads. No. I gathered essence without releasing it. Cold moved toward my left foot. Windstep answered, still unsafe, still 20, still impossible in the roots. I did not activate. I let the pressure rise just enough for the cart to sense. The front knots blazed. Roots surged toward my ankle. Outside, Lin Mei's knife cut the frayed rear cord. The roof twisted. The prowler lost 2 grips and slid toward the front left corner. Duan stood under it despite his torn ankle. He looped his chain around the leg that punched through. Xiao, one arm bound, caught Duan's waist. Su Lian caught Xiao. A human rope inside a living cage. Now! Duan shouted. They dropped together. The prowler's own weight tore its collar wire across the sharpened edge of a roof talisman. The central spine drank the released corruption and snapped upward. 3 pale roots burst through the roof, wrapped the prowler, and pulled it halfway inside. I struck the exposed wire anchor with the bent fairy token. Once. Twice. The third hit broke it. The creature went slack across the roof. Captain Wind's saber took its head as he rode past. Dragon essence gained, 8. Current essence, 26. 3 around our cart defeated. 6 remained in the attack. I kept the count. The price arrived from below. The prison spine had swallowed too much corrupted essence. Black veins spread into the pale roots. The 12 knots flashed out of rhythm. 1 root punched into the old spear wound in my thigh. I could not stop the shout. The cart drained 3 essence before Zhao's sword crossed the roof in a line of gold and severed the infected root. Forced containment drain, 3. Current essence, 23. Her sword returned to her hand. So much for concealed. Zhao stood in the road 20 paces ahead, white cloak dark with prowler blood. 6 beasts circled the convoy. The cavalry had killed none of those 6 yet. They were too fast among the trees and smart enough to strike carts rather than armor. Zhao looked at the black veins spreading through our walls. Captain 1, she said. The prison graft is compromised. Containment remains intact. The root inside my thigh twisted. I said, your definition needs work. Captain Wen ordered the convoy into a defensive square. The road was too narrow for it. That did not stop him from trying. Evidence wagon across the front. Ordinary prisoner wagon behind it. Supply carts angled at the sides. Horses inside. Archers dismounted along the ditch. It was a formation designed for open ground, squeezed between mulberry trees and an irrigation channel. The prowlers had chosen the place. One dropped from a branch onto an archer's back. Another scuttled under the evidence wagon and opened a horse from belly to chest. The falling animal kicked through a wheel. Luo's cage tipped, and his laughter cut through the screams. "Break the vessel cart," he shouted. "They follow the cores." The translation arrived clearly because he wanted me to hear. Captain Wen looked toward our cart. So did 3 archers. Zhao stepped between their arrows and the reed wall. "Any man who looses at the prisoner answers to my sword. They will keep coming while it lives." "It is Chen Kai," she said. "And killing him may release 2 cores into a corrupted feeding ground. Use your training." Wen disliked being corrected where soldiers could hear. He used the dislike properly and changed orders instead of arguing. "Fire line. Drive beasts away from the carts. Level 2 riders hold the ditch. Level 3 with me." The cavalry became more effective at once. 3 riders moved as a unit, 1 shield, 1 hooked pole, 1 saber. A prowler struck the shield, was turned by the pole, and lost a leg to the saber. Not dead. Slower. Formation mattered. So did rank. The level 2 riders held space. Level 3 riders finished openings. When, level 4, saw the pattern faster and placed them. Zhao did not erase the fight with 1 sword stroke because 6 prowlers were spread among prisoners, horses, and evidence she would not cut through. Inside the cart, Duan knelt over the severed infected root. "The spine will grow another." "How long?" He listened to the pulse under the floor. "Sooner now that it tasted grave corruption." Su Lian bound his ankle while Chao watched the moving shadows. My thigh bled around the root wound. The earlier mending breath had stabilized my side, not this. I had 23 essence. I could spend 5 and hold the thigh again. I could save fuel for the next drain. I could use 15 for full treatment across the thigh, ribs, shoulder, and side, but no treatment would replace blood already lost or restore torn muscle. The convoy remained under attack. I used 1 5-point stabilization pulse on the thigh. Cold sealed the small vessels around the new puncture and supported the damaged muscle. The old spear channel remained a weak tunnel through my leg. Pain dulled from white to red. My body temperature dropped enough that my breath misted. Current essence, 18. Azure approved. That bothered me more than the cold. A knife tapped twice beneath the floor. Lin Mei lay under the axle. Through the gaps I saw her pressed flat between road and moving cart frame, 1 hand hooked over a crossbar. Mud dragged at her clothes. The wheel stood less than a forearm from her shoulder. She had tied herself to the underside with my scorched rescue rope. Duan swore in admiration. She pointed at the central spine and then at the front underframe knot. A reed barb was growing from the spine toward the rope around her waist. "Cut yourself loose," I said. The translation did not carry through floor, wheel noise, and talisman interference. She read my face, shook her head, and pointed to the knot again. The 4th prowler hit the cart. Lin Mei's body swung under the axle. Her braid brushed the road. She jammed her broken reed knife into the underframe cord before the barb reached her. The knot split. Our front left wall opened by 1 handspan. The cart responded by forcing its spine upward. Duan had predicted it. He threw his chain around the new root. Xiao braced him with 1 good arm. Su Lian shoved a folded strip of robe between root and my wounded thigh. I reached through the handspan and found Lin Mei's rope. My palm burn screamed as I pulled. She released the crossbar. I hauled her through the opening shoulder first. The cart tried to close on her hips. Duan kicked the root aside. Su Lian dragged Lin Mei by both wrists until she spilled into the cage on top of us. For 1 breath, no one spoke. Then Su Lian slapped Lin Mei on the back of the head. Lin Mei came up with her knife ready. "She says that was foolish," I told her. "I know that word," Lin Mei said. Her speech reached me more cleanly than it had in Willowbank. Repetition helped. So did the cores learning her voice? Not perfectly. I caught perhaps 3 words in 4 when she faced me, less when she turned away. She looked at my thigh and at the blood on the cloth. "You told me live. Watch." "Yes. I watched you leave. That was not permission to crawl under a prison cart. You did not say that part." Su Lian laughed hard enough to hold her ribs. The fifth prowler struck the ordinary prisoner wagon. Iron bars held, but the axle did not. 7 core hunters and Luo slid sideways as the wheel broke. One soldier's chained arm went through the bars. A prowler seized it. He screamed for his captain. Luo kicked him toward the creature. The system gave no essence for cruelty. It gave me nausea for free. Lin Mei took in the scene through a roof gap. 3 beasts wounded. 1 under rear wagon. 2 in trees. 6 remaining, as before. Good. She had also brought the bamboo case. Not Zhao's evidence copy. A smaller dispatch case stolen from the overturned supply cart. Its red cord carried the same seal as Willowbank's order. Captain Wen saw it through the open wall. Thief. He crossed the road in 2 steps and thrust a white sword pole through the gap. The talisman tip touched Lin Mei's chest. I caught the shaft. Gold suppression surged into my burned palm. The left core pinned for half a breath. Crimson rushed toward the opening. 1 core held. The other forced. A lethal counter, reduced in scale but perfectly recognizable. My right eye flared red. Heat climbed my throat. Wen's wrist looked breakable. His men looked flammable. My pulse hammered hard enough to shake the roots. Lin Mei said my name. Xiao said it next, badly. Su Lian and Duan joined them. Chen Kai. For human voices gave me a shape to return to. I released the pole instead of pulling one into the cage. The red in my sight receded. It did not disappear cleanly. My hand trembled against my will. No exact meter appeared. No favor numbers. No threshold. Only a warning clouded by the cart. Suppression risk rising. Source uncertain under interference. Source uncertain was honest. The pole had pinned Azure. Crimson had surged. My fear and anger had helped. I could not assign a clean number to any part. One drew the pole back. Zhao arrived behind him. Why was a core-pinning talisman placed against an unstable vessel during an active corruption attack? She stole a sealed dispatch. Lin Mei held up the case. Found under cart. One reached for it. Zhao's sword point appeared between his fingers. Evidence first, Zhao said. Lin Mei passed the case through the gap to Zhao, but she kept 1 strip of red cord wrapped around her wrist. Smart. Proof that she had held it, if proof later mattered. Zhao opened the case. Inside were duplicate route forms and a prepared declaration bearing Captain Wen's mark. I could not read ordinary characters. When I focused on the bold lines, the system offered fragments shaped by context. Containment failure. Willowbank collusion, emergency grain levy. The effort made my eyes ache. I stopped before fragments became guesses. Zhao read every line without magic. Prepared before the attack, she said. Wen's jaw tightened. Standard contingency. For a village 12 li behind us. If the vessel escapes, speed matters. There it was in ink. Not proof of an invented conspiracy, but proof he was ready to use the suspension before anyone reviewed facts. Zhao folded the form and placed it in her own sleeve. Captain 1, you retain field command while beasts remain. You no longer control dispatch seals. His face went still. A prowler chose that moment to leap from the mulberry branches toward Zhao's back. She did not turn. Her sword did. Gold split the creature from collar to tail. It fell in 2 pieces without touching her cloak. The system gave me nothing. I had not meaningfully participated. Fair. 5 prowlers remained. Zhao looked at Lin Mei inside the living cart, then at the cut knot, the improvised bandages, and my shaking right hand. You entered my convoy unseen, she said. Lin Mei lifted her chin. Your guards watched road. Not carts. The translation delivered enough. Zhao's mouth almost moved at one corner. That will be corrected. Then the last 5 prowlers attacked together. The 5 prowlers did not rush as a pack. 2 went high through the mulberry branches. 1 ran the irrigation ditch where arrows could not reach. 1 circled the broken prisoner wagon. The last flattened itself under our cart beside the central spine. They were not following a commander I could see. They were following hunger, scent, and the bright pressure of 2 damaged dragon cores. That was enough coordination to kill us. Roof pair first, Captain 1 ordered. His archers loosed upward. The prowlers changed branches before the arrows arrived. No future sight needed. They had watched men draw bows before. The one beneath us bit into the prison spine. Black corruption flooded the floor. The living graft did what hungry things do when offered poison. It swallowed. Every root inside the cage hardened. Lin Mei's knife arm pinned to her side. Xiao's throat pressed against the wall. Duan lost his footing as the floor rose under one ankle. Su Lian vanished behind a curtain of pale strands. The interface flashed through interference. Containment integrity failing. Hostile corruption entering central control. Emergency response, exterior knots tightening. 12 knots had become 9 after Lin Mei's cuts and the torn roof. 9 exterior control points remained. If the central spine took them all at once, the cage could crush us while still technically containing me. Outside knots, I said. Cut in pairs, opposite sides. Lin Mei could barely move her wrist. Need space. I had 18 essence. Ember Fist cost 5. The heat would attract roots and perhaps give her room. Furnace Muscle cost 15 and remained unsafe. The tissue torn in Willowbank had not recovered. Using it inside a tightening cage would be like lifting a collapsed beam with a severed tendon. Wind Step had no footing in too many roots. I used Ember Fist through the bent fairy token. Current essence, 13. Heat ran into one root crossing Lin Mei's shoulder. I kept the pulse brief. The root blistered and recoiled. My palm burned deeper. Smoke curled from my fingers. Lin Mei slid free before another strand replaced it. She did not cut the nearest knot. She crossed over me, planted one foot against Duan's back, and reached the roof cord opposite the prowler beneath us. Other side, she told Xiao. His left arm was bound and bleeding through Su Lian's cloth. He used his teeth on the rear cord. They cut together. The cart twisted around its center. The infected spine snapped downward, trapping the prowler underneath between road and axle. Its 6 legs raked both sides. The left wheel climbed one leg and dropped hard. The beast stayed alive, feeding corruption upward. Duan saw the same problem. He wrapped his ankle chain around a leg point that had pierced the floor. Riders, he shouted through the wall. Pull on my mark. The cavalry did not obey prisoners. Captain Wen did understand leverage. He hooked the protruding leg with his whitesword pole. 2 level 3 riders added their hooked weapons. Duan counted. On 3, inside and outside pulled in the same direction. The prowler rolled from beneath the spine. The living roots followed it, hungry for the corruption in its body. They burst through the floor, wound around the collar wire, and held the creature flat in the road. Lin Mei cut a 3rd knot. I drove the hot fairy token through the wire anchor. The anchor opened. Royal sabers finished the body. Meaningful group defeat confirmed. Dragon essence gained, 10. Current essence, 23. 4 prowlers remained. The 2 in the branches dropped onto the evidence wagon together. One rider took a hook through the cheek. The other beast tore open Zhao's lacquered evidence chest. Papers, black thread talismans, Luo's red bead fragments, and collar pins scattered across the road. Zhao's sword flashed toward the first beast. The second caught a packet in its jaws and leapt away. Luo's route ledger. Lin Mei recognized the waxed leather before I did. Names, she shouted. Zhao redirected her sword in mid-flight. The first prowler struck a soldier and survived. Gold chased the ledger thief through leaves, but the creature kept tree trunks between itself and the blade. Experience mattered even against overwhelming power. It could not beat Zhao in open ground. It could make her choose what not to cut. The ditch prowler erupted beside the cart and seized Su Lian through the broken wall. Its hook went through cloth at her shoulder, not flesh, but the next pull would drag her into the water. Xiao caught her belt. His wounded arm failed. Duan caught Xiao. Lin Mei looped the rescue rope around the rear wall. I caught the prowler's leg with both hands. My burned palm slipped. My fractured rib shifted under the strain. The old shoulder tear opened enough to send weakness down my arm. Crimson offered furnace muscle with delighted urgency. 15 essence. Strength now. Tearing afterward. Greater influence. I had 23. It would work. That was the danger. No. I planted my good foot against the axle post, turned my hips, and used the body I actually owned. Sanda had taught me that pulling against a stronger opponent is an invitation to lose. Change the line. Attack balance. I shoved the leg upward instead of pulling back. The prowler's hook joint struck the roof edge. Duan dropped his weight. The rescue rope tightened. Su Lian tore free of her own robe and fell backward wearing one sleeve. Lin Mei's sling was already turning. Her stone hit the collar anchor. Not enough to break it. Enough to expose the wire. Captain Wen rode between us and the ditch. His saber cut the leg at the joint. The prowler dropped into irrigation water and disappeared beneath floating weeds. Not defeated. Wounded. 3 visible elsewhere, 1 hidden in the ditch. Count 4. The living cart had lost 6 knots. Its roof sagged. Its central spine right through the floor, black with corruption. A normal cage would have been weaker. This one was becoming less controlled. Duan pointed beneath the forward wall. The spine joins the drawbar there. Sever it and the graft dies. Does the cage open? It may. May? I guarded horses. I did not study prison gardening. Another branch cracked. The ledger thief was circling back toward the trees. Zhao's sword forced it lower, but the beast kept the packet clenched. The prison spine turned toward my chest. Its tip split into 2 pale needles, one aimed left and one right. Pin both cores. Drain one. Let the other spirit push. The cart had learned from Wen's pole. Azure went very quiet. Crimson growled with pleasure. Bounded immortality did not make those needles harmless. If the prison pinned one core and forced possession through the other, I could lose control. If it starved both cores and then crushed my ribs, a mortal wound would remain mortal. If it lifted my head against the exposed roof edge, decapitation would not become survivable because a system message had once used the word immortal. I said the whole danger aloud in short pieces. Needles toward cores. Do not let them pin me. Cut drawbar spine. Lin Mei high knot. Duan low. Chao rope. Su Lian tell us if anyone stops breathing. Su Lian had already wrapped her bare shoulder. A very specialized duty. The needle struck. Duan blocked the left with his chain. Gold suppression raced up the iron and threw him against the wall. Lin Mei looped the rescue rope around the right needle. Xiao pulled with his good arm and his teeth. I caught the central fork with the fairy token. The cart drove us backward. Outside, the 2 remaining tree prowlers attacked Zhao together to free the ledger thief. One died when her sword reversed through its collar. The other landed on her horse and tore the saddle loose. Zhao rolled clear. Her horse bolted into the defensive ring, scattering archers. Captain Wen moved to shield her. That left no rider at our drawbar. Lin Mei saw it. She released the needle, dove through the half-open roof, and landed on the driver's bench. Lin Mei. She seized the reins, drove both heels against the bench, and turned the draft horses toward the irrigation ditch. The driver tried to stop her. Su Lian reached through the wall, caught his sleeve, and pulled his arm into the roots. She did not injure him. She held him long enough for Lin Mei to take the team. Our cart rolled across the road. The wounded prowler rose from the ditch directly ahead. Lin Mei did not turn away. The horses saw it and tried to rear. She threw the reins around the brake lever, jumped onto the drawbar, and cut the last front knot. The cart spine lunged toward the prowler's corruption. Duan and Xiao pulled the rescue rope in opposite directions. I forced the fork down. The hungry spine burst through the drawbar and wrapped the beast's collar. Cart and prowler met in a crash of pale roots, black water, and broken harness. The front axle dropped into the ditch. I was thrown against the wall. My fractured rib ground. The fork missed my cores and punched through the roof. Lin Mei swung under the drawbar by one hand. Captain Wen's soldiers shouted. Zhao's sword was still among the trees. The prowler bit through the exposed spine. I spent no technique. I took the bent fairy token, crawled through the broken front wall, and drove it into the collar anchor while the cart held the beast. The wire snapped. Dragon essence gained, 9. Current essence, 32. 2 prowlers remained active, the one near the evidence wagon and the ledger thief circling through the trees. The wounded ditch creature was down and stayed down. Lin Mei lost her grip. Captain Wen caught her by the back of her jacket from horseback. He hauled her clear as the cart tipped into the ditch. The living cage rolled onto its side. The roof opened. For the first time since Willowbank, nothing covered the sky above me. I could have run then. The cart lay broken in the ditch. 6 of its exterior knots had been cut, 3 torn loose, and the last 3 were feeding a corrupted spine that had wrapped itself around a dead prowler. The anti-vessel net had slipped from my shoulders during the roll. My ankles remained looped, but the white cord was loose enough to step out. The cavalry formation had collapsed around wounded horses and scattered evidence. Zhao was 30 paces away with 2 prowlers between her and me. Captain Wen held Lin Mei with one hand and tried to control a panicked mount with the other. The road south opened beyond the mulberry bend. Xiao saw it. Go, he said. Duan tore a reed bar from the wall. Tree line in 20 breaths. River path after. Su Lian looked at Lin Mei and Wen's grip. He cannot carry both of you. 20 breaths. Maybe more with speed 6. The prisoners could scatter in 3 directions. The prowlers were occupied. Zhao's sword was fast, but the ledger thief kept forcing her to bend its path around trunks and soldiers. A clean escape by the standards of disaster, no clean thing anywhere, only one open route with a survivable first minute. Then Captain Wen shouted, "If the vessel crosses the salt marker, declare Willowbank complicit." He pointed with his saber toward a carved stone beside the road. The prepared form waited in Zhao's sleeve, confiscated but not destroyed. The protection order remained attached to delivery. Lieutenant Cao was riding south with a copy, but a faster signal flare could reach the registry post before him. If I crossed that stone, one had field grounds to suspend the order. Zhao could argue later. Willowbank would pay during the argument. Crimson filled my right side with heat. Run through him. Take the girl. Burn the flare tubes. Azure cooled my breath. Leave all 4. Their capture preserves the greater objective. Both dragons wanted me to turn people into arithmetic. I put my foot back inside the white ankle loop. Xiao swore at me. Duan stared. You heard him. Yes. You can reach the trees. Yes. Then why are you climbing back into the cage? Because the road behind us has a village on it. That village is not ours, Xiao said. Blood soaked his arm bandage. Reed Ferry is mine. South Bank is hers. This fort swallowed people from all of them. If you escape, you may help more than one place. He was not wrong. That made the choice harder, not easier. If I run now, cavalry returns to Willowbank before I can stop them. If I stay, I reach the place your people were taken. I do not like the cage. I like the direction. Su Lian looked toward the salt marker. Then make staying cost them. That I understood. I stepped out of the loop again, not toward the trees but toward Lin Mei. Captain Wen raised his saber. Back. I stopped beyond its reach. She exposed your false declaration and cut prisoners free during an attack. She is a witness. She infiltrated a royal convoy. She also saved your cart team. The driver whose sleeve Su Lian had held was crawling out of the ditch. He looked at Lin Mei, then reluctantly nodded. Zhao's voice crossed the road. Captain Wen. Release the witness. He did. Carefully enough to show the choice was his, late enough to show it was not. Lin Mei came to my side. She did not thank him. She checked the rescue rope, found the cut section still usable, and went straight to Xiao's wound. The last road prowler attacked while our attention split. It burst from beneath Luo's cage. Luo shoved a chained soldier into its path again. This time the soldier caught the cage bars and held on. Duan! I shouted. He understood the angle. He and Xiao dragged a loose prison route across the road. Su Lian waved her one-sleeved robe at the beast. It turned toward the movement and hit the root at full speed. The root tightened from residual hunger, wrapping 2 legs. Captain Wen's level 3 pair moved together. Hook pole turned the head. Saber cut the collar wire. The freed corruption collapsed into gray reeds. I had held the root in place with my foot and called the opening. The system judged that meaningful, but not equal. Dragon essence gained, 6. Current essence, 38. 1 prowler remained with the ledger. It fled south through the mulberries. Zhao raised 2 fingers. Her sword rose above the branches, paused, and drove down beyond our sight. We heard a distant shriek. She walked into the trees and returned with the waxed packet on her blade. The first assault had ended. 9 prowlers had entered the road. None remained moving in it. The living prison cart was finished. Its spine twitched in the ditch, but the pale roots had gone gray. Zhao ordered the remaining 3 control knots burned and the mirror leech spine packed in a sealed iron box. She did not pretend it had merely malfunctioned. Sabotage or bad graft? I asked. Unknown, she said. Good answer. We made camp beside the ruined cart because wounded horses could not march. The cavalry formed a perimeter. Prisoners received water before interrogation, perhaps because Zhao ordered it or because Su Lian stood beside the barrel and struck away any hand that tried to close the lid. Food was millet paste with salt. It was the best thing I had tasted since leaving 2026. Rest, food, and mental balance allowed the level interface to clear for the first time. Post-level 1 integration requirement, 20 stabilized essence. Current essence, 38. Stabilized essence deposited toward a level is removed from usable reserves. A deposit cannot be reclaimed for techniques. Overflow from a deposit carries toward the next level. Integration requires food, rest, and host control. Mid-combat leveling grants no full healing. I had enough. Spending 20 would leave 18. Keeping 38 might save a life during another attack. Level 2 would increase speed automatically and offer one bonus choice. It would not repair my rib, replace blood, or close the spear channel. The road ahead led to Black Reed Fort. The road behind held a village under conditional protection. I needed a body that could move and a spirit that could resist what the cart had nearly done. I deposited 20. Current essence, 18. Level gained. Shen Kai, level 2. Speed increased to 7. Choose one bonus increase, spirit or body. Body would help the injuries I already carried. Spirit would increase technique depth and resistance to possession and soul pressure. Zhao's pole, the prison needles, and the two voices in my chest made the choice. Spirit. Spirit increased to 4. Final stats, body 8. Speed 7. Spirit 4. Perception 6. Will 8. No healing occurred. My rib still hurt. My thigh still shook when I stood. My left forearm remained weak. Level 2 gave me a cleaner reaction between intention and movement, not a new body. One more line appeared. Wind step stabilization available through breath and footing practice. No permanent essence charge. Failed activations still cost the full activation cost of 20 essence. Stable activation cost remains 20 essence. Requirements: Speed 7, Spirit 4, 3 controlled patterns under ordinary footing, and 1 successful use under threat without panic. Failure conditions: nets, deep mud, tight grapple, broken breath, or panic. I had 18 essence, too short of even one attempt. Duan handed me a stick as a cane. You look disappointed for a man who just started moving faster. I received a training plan from a dead dragon. Does it include sleep? No. Bad teacher. Beyond the fire, Zhao sealed Willowbank's order, Captain Wen's prepared declaration, and Luo's ledger in 3 separate cases. Lin Mei sat beside Xiao, learning the knot Su Lian used on his bandage. She looked up and caught me watching. I had refused the open road. Willowbank's protection still held. It was not enough. I needed that protection to survive my next choice, not merely this one. Su Lian examined me after sunset and announced that immortality was making me stupid. It is not doing that, I said. Then you arrived stupid. Less impressive. She had found a flat stone, boiled cloth in an army pot, and bullied a young cavalry medic into surrendering his needle. The medic was level 2 according to one brief glance, with steady hands and no visible corruption. His name was He Jun. He did not like prisoners using his supplies. He disliked preventable bleeding more. Between them, they unwrapped every wound. The puncture through my thigh remained the worst. Luo's opposing pair spear had left a hard blue-red burn around the channel. The prison route had reopened the front edge. My rib fracture had not shifted through the lung, but rolling the cart had deepened the bruising. The shoulder tear held. The arrow wound in my left forearm had stopped bleeding but left 2 fingers numb. The side cut was stable after the first pulse. My back and upper thighs showed long purple bands where furnace muscle had torn fibers. My palm had blistered again from Ember Fist and Wen's talisman. Blood loss left me lightheaded when I stood. Dragon Eye strain made lanterns wear blue halos. Su Lian pointed to the spear channel. Full art. I have 18 essence. You have 1 leg becoming 3 problems. She was right. Mending breath full treatment, 15 essence. I used it. Cold spread through connected injuries instead of 1 narrow wound. The spear channel stabilized from hip to exit. The rib muscles tightened around the fracture. The shoulder and forearm stopped threatening to reopen with every pull. The side cut held. The treatment did not erase any wound. It did not remove opposing energy burn, replace blood, restore numb fingers, or rebuild torn muscle. Frost formed in my hair. My lips lost feeling. Current essence, 3. He Jun covered me with 2 horse blankets and put warm stones near my armpits. Your healing nearly freezes you. Everything useful here comes with an argument. Su Lian touched the old furnace tears in my back. And the red art? Strength now. Damage later. Do not use it. That is the plan. Plans improve when witnesses repeat them. Lin Mei repeated it at once. Do not use it. Duan joined from beside the fire. Do not use it. Xiao lifted his bound arm. I will save breath. Assume agreement. The Crimson Dragon muttered that weak bodies attracted weak counsel. I kept that opinion private. Zhao allowed me to stand for wind step practice after the medic declared I would not bleed out. Allowed meant 6 riders formed a spear ring around a patch of firm road. White cords remained at my wrists and ankles with enough slack for an ordinary step. Captain 1 wanted the full anti-vessel net restored. Zhao refused because its drain, combined with my blood loss, could create the essence Digestion-Kill condition her orders required her to avoid. She understood bounded immortality as procedure. Empty both cores, inflict a mortal wound, and the famous vessel became a corpse. Destroy both cores, sever my head before repair began, cut my will away with a soul art, pierce me with opposing dragon metal, pin one core while forcing the other, or simply drown, poison, crush, freeze, smoke, exhaust, restrain, or overwhelm me long enough for one of the cleaner methods. The list remained long. Her soldiers treated each line as equipment guidance. I treated it as a reason not to become careless. Windstep's first pattern required no activation. Ordinary motion only, inhale while settling weight, exhale through the turn, place the lead foot on known ground, keep the rear heel ready to recover. The magic was not practice. Practice was teaching my body the route magic would later magnify. I failed because my thigh buckled. I failed because the white ankle cord tugged and I reacted with anger. I failed because I watched the spear points instead of the ground. On the 4th attempt, Lin Mei threw a pebble at my rear heel. Too high, she said. I lowered it. The pattern cleared. Controlled pattern 1 confirmed. Captain 1 looked annoyed that a prisoner's advice had helped. Zhao watched my breathing. Pattern 2 changed direction around a fixed obstacle. Duan planted his cane in the road. I stepped outside it, turned my hips, and returned without crossing my feet. Sanda footwork gave me the bones. The Azure Core wanted perfection, no wasted sway, no grief, no attention to the people watching. Detach from injury, it said. Detach from bonds. Wind moves because it carries nothing. That was philosophy disguised as coaching. I let pain remain. I let Lin Mei's pebble remain near my heel, Xiao's bandage remain in the corner of my sight, Willowbank remain behind me. I moved with weight instead of pretending I had none. Controlled pattern 2 confirmed. The third pattern required a short approach, a false line, and a planted exit. My speed had increased, but speed on a bad leg is just a faster way to fall. I shortened the entry. Zhao spoke for the first time. You are protecting the left thigh before contact. Yes. An enemy will see it. So did you. I am the enemy in the ring. Honest again. She drew her sword by hand rather than spirit and held the point at my shoulder. Pass without touching steel. The first attempt ended with the point at my throat. The second ended against my fractured rib. On the third, Lin Mei called, her front foot. Zhao's robe concealed it, but the cloth shifted before the sword. Visible evidence. No future sight needed. I stepped toward the threat, turned outside her wrist, and planted beyond the point. Controlled pattern 3 confirmed. Stabilization trial pending, 1 successful activation under threat without panic. Activation cost, 20 essence. Current essence, 3. No one congratulated me. Sensible group. Zhao lowered the sword. Why spirit? She had detected the level change. Because your cart tried to use my body while keeping me awake. The cart was not designed to corrupt itself. Duan says Blackreed Fort grew at around a mirror leech spine. Her eyes went to him. He stood straighter despite the shackle. I guarded the old stable before the graft wing opened. Warden Peng moved failed cultivators below ground. Living carts came after. The translation frayed when wind moved through camp, but Zhao understood every word in her own language. She questioned him for an hour. Dates. Officer names. Stable inventories. Which gate admitted covered wagons. Duan answered some, refused others until she promised his testimony would be recorded as a witness statement rather than a confession. He bargained from chains. Zhao respected exact terms enough to agree. Lin Mei brought Captain Wen's prepared declaration. Xiao described Reed Ferry seizures. Su Lian named sick households taken from South Bank. I added what Luo's ledger fragments had shown me, careful to distinguish translated fragments from characters I could not truly read. Zhao listened. She did not declare us righteous. She built an evidence stack. At the end, I said, separate Willowbank from my custody. Not yet. What is missing? Independent proof that the route crimes continue beyond Luo. The cart. Can be blamed on him. Wen's form. Proves preparation to use a lawful contingency harshly, not that the law itself was forged. Duan's testimony. Needs corroboration inside the fort. I disliked every answer. None was foolish. Then when we find corroboration? I can recategorize Willowbank as a protected evidence site. That status would survive your escape for 30 days unless revoked by my seal or 3 registered magistrates. Captain Wen, standing outside the firelight, said, if the fort accepts your evidence. Zhao turned. The authority is mine before acceptance. He bowed. The argument did not end. It changed shape. I had a path. We needed proof independent of me before another open road appeared. The camp settled by watches. Prisoners slept inside an ordinary barred wagon with white cords at wrists and ankles. Lin Mei was registered as an unsummoned witness and placed under guard rather than in irons. She chose to sleep under our wagon anyway. I lay awake listening to 2 dragons breathe behind my lungs. Azure whispered that spirit made me a more suitable vessel. Crimson whispered that refusing strength only delayed surrender. 3 essence glowed between them, too little for any major repair, too little for windstep, enough to make both voices interested. I held my name and counted the human breathing around me until dawn. We moved at sunrise with 1 fewer cart and a smaller remount string. The living prison remains rowed inside the sealed evidence wagon. Luo and his 7 surviving soldiers stayed chained in the damaged iron cage, its axle reinforced with mulberry trunks. Xiao, Su Lian, Duan, and I occupied the second barred wagon. Lin Mei walked beside it under Hejun's supervision until the road grew muddy, then climbed onto the rear board and pretended the arrangement had been officially approved. Captain Wen did not correct her. He had become careful around witnesses. The convoy now counted 39 mounted soldiers, 6 dismounted cavalry walking beside injured horses, Zhao, 2 drivers, medic He, 11 formal prisoners, and 1 unsummoned witness. 1 royal rider had died during the Prowler attack. The 11 prisoners were me, Xiao, Su Lian, Duan, Luo, and 6 of Luo's 7 surviving soldiers. The 7th Corps Hunter had also died from the Prowler attack despite Hejun's work. Zhao recorded both deaths and their causes before we moved. I kept the count because people vanish easily when officials call them cargo. The road descended into reed country. Black water filled ditches on both sides. The air smelled clean enough, but no birds called. Xiao noticed first. Fort ahead, he said. Water should be loud with herons. Lin Mei touched the road. Tracks. From inside the wagon I could see only mud near 1 wheel. Dragon eyes showed no hidden beasts. It could not. Lin Mei climbed down, examined a wide drag mark, and pointed toward the reeds. Something crossed. Many legs. Heavy tail. Captain Wen sent 2 level 2 scouts forward. 1 returned after 100 breaths. The other did not. The returning scout had blood on his saddle but no wound of his own. Bridge clear, he reported. No sign of Shin. His words overlapped with harness noise, and the translation gave me only bridge, clear, no sign. Lin Mei understood the whole sentence. Her face tightened. Zhao halted the convoy before the last bend. Captain Wen wanted to push to open ground beyond the ford. Duan disagreed from the wagon. Black Reed Channel has steep banks. Bridge takes 1 cart. If the lead axle stops, rear cannot turn. One looked at him. You know this road? I supplied your fort stable. You deserted it. After learning the road. Zhao sent a floating strip of gold light above the bend. It showed the bridge surface and the opposite bank, nothing beneath the black water. Her art was powerful, not omniscient. The missing scout's spear stood upright beyond the bridge. No body. No horse. A lure visible from the road. Captain Wen changed formation. For level 3 riders crossed first in pairs. 2 carried hooked poles. 2 carried short bows. They reached the spear. 1 dismounted. The bridge exploded upward. Black water, planks, and a creature's armored back filled the air. The dismounted rider vanished between jaws broad enough to take a horse's chest. 3 smaller shapes surged from both banks. Reeds that had looked rooted began moving toward us. Lin Mei grabbed the wagon bar. Down. A bone spike crossed where her face had been and buried itself in Su Lian's seat. Dragon eyes found the creatures only after they broke cover. Mire Jaw Scavenger. Level 2. Carried Essence, 15. Affinity, Water and Rot. Visible weakness, pale throat seam during lunge. 6 smaller signatures moved in open water. 2 larger shapes rose under the broken bridge. Mire Jaw Mauler. Level 3. Carried Essence, 28. Armor incomplete behind forelegs. At the center, something stayed below the surface. Dragon eyes could not name what I could not see. Enemy count visible, 6 level 2 scavengers, 2 level 3 maulers. At least one unknown beneath the ford. The nearest scavenger lunged from the broken bridge at Zhao. Her sword severed its collar and throat before it reached her. I had done nothing to that enemy. No essence came to me. 6 scavengers had arrived. 5 remained active. 9 enemies in total if the hidden body was one creature. I did not pretend certainty until it surfaced. Captain Wen's voice cracked across the road. Rear carts back. Archers high. Prison wagon stays sealed. The driver pulled our team around. The road behind us moved. White grave reeds rose from the mud in a wall, their roots connected to black fragments leaking from the evidence wagon. The sealed prison spine had been calling through the road. The mire jaws had not found us by chance. A mauler struck the lead evidence cart. The iron box containing the living spine broke through its floor and landed in the road. Black roots spread toward our wheels. 3 essence remained. Wind step needed 20. The ford closed ahead. Grave reeds closed behind. The wagon bars stayed locked. And beneath the black water, something large enough to lift a bridge turned toward the 2 cores in my chest. The first problem was the lock. The second was the team of horses trying to drag our wagon backward into living reeds. Duan kicked the brake lever through the bars. The rear wheels locked. Xiao looped his good arm through the frame and caught the driver before he fell. Sulian pulled Lin Mei inside by her belt as another bone spike crossed the road. Captain Wen had the key. He was fighting a scavenger beside the broken bridge. Lin Mei produced a collar pin from her sleeve. I looked at her. Evidence fell, she said. Of course it did. She pushed the pin into the lock. It was not a proper pick. Xiao added the flattened edge of his fairy token. Duan told them which way military wagon locks turned. 3 kinds of local knowledge entered one keyhole. A scavenger hit our bars. Its jaws closed around the driver's bench. Pale throat seam opened beneath the armored jaw. I had 3 essence. No technique. Rope through the seam, I said. Lin Mei fed the rescue rope between bars. Xiao threw the loop one-handed. Su Lian caught the returning end. When the creature pulled away, all 3 hauled the rope upward into its throat seam. Duan drove the loose bone spike through the exposed gap. The scavenger thrashed against the wagon. Royal arrows struck its back and bounced. The rope cut deeper. The corruption collar around its tail split under the strain. Shared ford defeat confirmed. Dragon essence gained, 9. Current essence, 12. The lock opened. We did not scatter. Duan went to the horses. Xiao climbed onto the roof to watch both banks. Su Lian dragged the wounded driver under the wagon and compressed a cut at his neck. Lin Mei took the rope and ran toward the evidence box, spilling grave roots. I followed as fast as the stabilized thigh allowed. Speed 7 made the first 3 steps cleaner. It did not make the road firm. Black mud caught my left boot. Wind step would fail there even if I had fuel. I moved along the wagon ruts instead. A second scavenger lunged from the ditch at Lin Mei. She threw herself over the iron box, forcing it to expose the pale throat seam. I jammed the bone spike crosswise into its mouth. It bit down. Duan snapped a harness trace around its foreleg. Captain Wen's wounded level 2 scout drove a spear into the seam. The collar cracked when the scavenger twisted. Dragon essence gained, 10. Current essence, 22. Enough for 1 wind step. Not stable yet. The third scavenger came over the roof of Luo's cage. Luo seized its collar wire through the bars and tried to turn it toward me. Even chained, he understood control hardware. Open my cage, he shouted. I can command them. You commanded enough. He pulled the wire. The scavenger changed direction toward Su Lian under the wagon. I had firm footing on a plank torn from the bridge. Breath in. Weight settled. Exit chosen beside the creature's shoulder. Threat real. Panic would waste 20 essence and leave me in its mouth. Azure entered my left leg like winter. Become empty, it whispered. Carry nothing. I carried Willowbank, the prisoners, and every wound. I moved anyway. Wind step activated. Current essence, 2. 1 short step became a clean impossible angle. Not flight. Not a blur. My lead foot landed where I had chosen, beyond the jaws and outside Luo's pull. I drove the bone spike down through the collar wire. The technique ended. My wounded calf held. My breath remained mine. Wind step stabilization trial complete. Wind step stabilized. Activation cost remains 20 essence. Limits unchanged, 1 short angle, known footing, prepared breath. Failure in nets, deep mud, tight grapple, broken breath, or panic. The scavenger spun. Lin Mei's sling stone broke the spike deeper. Captain Wen cut the exposed throat seam. Dragon essence gained, 9. Current essence, 11. 3 scavengers defeated with our meaningful participation. 1 had already died beneath Zhao's sword near the bridge. 4 of 6 were down. 2 scavengers, 2 maulers, and the unseen thing remained. Then the grave reeds reached the water. Every black root pointed toward the center of the ford. The hidden thing rose. Its shell was the missing bridge. Planks and stones lay across a back wider than a wagon. 4 eyes opened above a mouth ringed with broken spearheads. A collar of white grave reed had grown through the shell and into the riverbed. Dragon eyes caught the visible body. Mire Jaw Broodkeeper. Level 4. Carried essence, 72. Affinity, deep water, rot, suppression. Visible control link, gravereed collar connected to escaped prison spine. Visible injury, old ballista scar beneath right shell ridge. It was not a mind report. I did not know whether it hated us, guarded young, or remembered being an ordinary river beast. I knew the prison graft was pulling its collar, and I knew where old scar tissue had weakened the shell. The broodkeeper opened its mouth. Black water crossed the road in a crushing wave. It knocked horses off their feet and filled the ditch to my chest. Ordinary drowning remained ordinary. My cores could not create air. A white ankle cord snagged a root and pulled me under. Deep mud cancelled windstep. 11 essence could not pay for it anyway. Lin Mei cut the cord underwater. She had tied the rescue rope around her waist and around the wagon axle. Xiao and Duan hauled us both toward the surface. I came up coughing river water against a fractured rib. 1 scavenger lunged at Xiao on the roof. Su Lian threw the dead creature's collar wire around its jaw. The driver she had treated used his last strength to pull the other end. Xiao broke the throat seam with his fairy token. Dragon essence gained, 8. Current essence, 19. 5 scavengers down. 1 remained. A mauler climbed onto the road behind the cavalry line. Its incomplete armor exposed flesh behind the forelegs when it reared. Wen's level 3 riders tried the same 3-person formation as before. Shield, hook, saber. The mauler crushed the shieldman's horse and turned the hook pole aside. Experience was not a guarantee. It was a better chance. I reached the fallen shieldman first. His thigh artery pumped bright blood. 1 mending breath stabilization pulse cost 5. I used it. Current essence, 14. Cold slowed the bleeding in 1 localized band. It did not restore blood or repair the crushed leg. Su Lian arrived, packed the wound, and ordered 2 soldiers to carry him uphill. They obeyed a prisoner because she was right. The mauler turned toward us. I could not use windstep. Too little essence, mud too deep, breath broken from water. I raised the fallen shield with Duan behind it. Body 8 and his stableman's strength barely held. 4 leg. Lin Mei called. Her stone struck the exposed gap. Xiao dropped the rescue rope from the wagon roof. Captain Wen caught it on his hook pole and looped the mauler's right foreleg. 10 soldiers pulled. The beast lost balance against the shield. Zhao's sword could have killed it then. She used the opening to sever the gravereed control link instead. The mauler collapsed alive, corruption draining from its mouth. Defeat did not require execution. Meaningful mauler defeat confirmed. Dragon essence gained, 18. Current essence, 32. 1 scavenger, 1 mauler, and the broodkeeper remained. The final scavenger fled toward the reeds. Captain Wen let it go. Do not chase into cover, he ordered. Good decision, wrong result. The grave collar yanked the creature backward. It struck the evidence box, tore the lid away, and swallowed a length of prison spine. Black veins expanded across its body. Level and carried essence did not display again. Dragon eyes showed instability too violent to resolve. It charged Zhao. She pinned it to the road with 3 gold characters. The remaining mauler hit her from the side before her sword completed the cut. Zhao crossed 1 arm and took the impact behind a curved barrier, but her boots slid 10 paces through mud. The pinned scavenger broke free. Lin Mei ran toward the abandoned fire cart. Duan understood and followed. They kicked a clay fire jar into the road, not at the beast but across its path. Red sparks spread on wet planks. The scavenger avoided the fire and exposed its collar side to me. I spent 5 essence on Ember Fist through the bent fairy token. Current essence, 27. The pulse burned my palm through old blisters. I struck the swallowed prison spine where it entered the collar. Heat traveled along the black graft. The living fragment recoiled from fire and tore itself out. Captain Wen's saber cut the empty anchor. Dragon essence gained, 10. Current essence, 37. All 6 scavengers were accounted for. 5 defeated through our shared actions, 1 initially killed by Zhao at the bridge. 2 maulers had arrived. 1 lay freed near the wagon. 1 still fought Zhao. The level 4 Broodkeeper remained in the ford. The Broodkeeper pulled every loose grave root toward its shell. The broken living prison had become a leash long enough to cross the whole battlefield. And its other end was wrapped around the written evidence that could free Willowbank from mine. The last mauler drove Zhao toward the ford. Captain Wen moved to help. She ordered him to hold the prisoner's road instead. That told me the real threat was not the beast in front of her. It was the grave root network spreading behind us. Roots had wrapped the evidence cases, Luo's cage, 3 wounded soldiers, and the axle of our wagon. If the Broodkeeper pulled, everything went into black water together. Cut people first, I said. Lin Mei took the wounded. Xiao and Duan took the wagon axle. Su Lian crawled to Luo's cage because one of his soldiers had a root around his throat. She saved him despite what he had done. That was her choice, not forgiveness. I went for the evidence cases. The road between me and them had washed away. 2 bridge planks remained across a 6-foot gap above churning water. Firm enough for 1 planted foot if I chose exactly. Wind's step was stable. Stable did not mean cheap. Current essence, 37. I inhaled before the plank. Prepared breath. Known landing. No net. No grapple. Fear present, not driving. Wind step activated, 20. Current essence, 17. Cold took 1 step and carried me across the break. My lead foot landed beside Zhao's evidence case. The technique ended immediately. I did not float over the water. I nearly fell because the landing plank rolled under my wounded foot. Azure did not release me. Cold climbed from my left leg into my hand. My pulse slowed. Mist left my mouth. The ford became lines and outcomes without people attached. Cut the evidence. Let the prisoners enter water. Preserve the stronger vessel. My left hand drew the bent ferry token toward Xiao's rescue rope. I told it no. The hand kept moving. Lin Mei saw my blue left eye. Chen Kai. Xiao shouted my name from the wagon. Duan and Su Lian added theirs. Even medic he called across the road. Zhao, fighting the mauler, said at last. Chen Kai. Choose the hand. I drove the ferry token through the grave root instead of the rope. Pain returned with my pulse. The azure tremor passed out through my fingers. No meter told me how close suppression had come. My hand shook enough that I needed 2 cuts for the next route. The evidence cases came free. The Broodkeeper hauled on its collar. The remaining mauler reared, exposing the unarmored gap behind its foreleg. Zhao's sword struck the grave control strand, not the heart. Captain Wen hooked the foreleg from shore. Duan threw him the rescue rope. 12 cavalry pulled. The mauler fell sideways into shallow water. I reached the collar anchor first and broke it with the ferry token. When severed the last strand. Dragon essence gained, 18. Current essence, 35. Both level 3 maulers were defeated, alive but freed from active control. Only the Broodkeeper remained. Its collar still joined the prison spine beneath the riverbed. The old ballista scar showed when it turned its right shell ridge. Visible weakness, impossible reach. Lin Mei found the answer in the ruined bridge. Counterweight rope. A thick hauling line hung from the collapsed support. Xiao knew water. Duan knew horses. Wen knew formation. Zhao knew the control link. I knew how collapsing loads move when 1 anchor fails. We built 1 plan out of 5 people's knowledge. Xiao tied the hauling line to the evidence wagon axle. Duan turned the surviving draft team uphill. Wen's riders hooked the line around the Broodkeeper's exposed shell ridge. Lin Mei climbed the broken bridge pier and cut away snagged planks so the line could run. Zhao pinned the grave collar with her sword. The Broodkeeper pulled first. The evidence wagon slid toward the water. Duan whipped the reins. Horses leaned. Cavalry hauled. The line tightened around the old scar. I stood beside Zhao's sword with the ferry token and waited for the collar to lift. The creature opened its mouth. Water gathered in a black surge. Now! Xiao shouted. Lin Mei cut the final bridge support. Stone dropped onto the hauling line behind the Broodkeeper, becoming a second counterweight. Its shell twisted. The old scar opened. The grave collar lifted one handspan from the water. I struck the visible control root. Once. The token bent flat. Twice. The root split but held. The brood keeper's wave hit us. Zhao's barrier kept my head above water for one breath. One breath was enough. I caught the root with both burned hands and pulled against the horses, riders, falling stone, and every prisoner on the rope. It tore free. The brood keeper sank without the collar's command. Its 4 eyes closed. A broad tail moved once toward deep water, carrying it away rather than attacking. Corruption source defeated. Hostile control broken. Dragon essence gained, 36. Current essence, 71. No kill was required. The system rewarded breaking the source that had made the beast hostile. The ford went still in pieces. One freed mauler crawled into reeds. The other lay breathing near shore. 6 scavengers remained dead or collapsed into ordinary gray vegetation. The brood keeper had lost its controlling root and withdrawn. Nothing hostile still held the ford. Zhao's strength had mattered. So had when rebuilding his formation, prisoners cutting roots, Lin Mei finding knots, and horses pulling when dragon power could not. I sat in mud and looked at my hands. Wind's step was stable. So was the knowledge that Azure could still move a hand if I invited too much cold. We found the proof inside the torn prison spine. Duan split the gray casing with a cavalry hatchet. Beneath it lay a copper registration strip stamped with Blackreed Fort's graft mark and Warden Peng's inventory number. Zhao read it aloud. Cart spine 7. Fed on failed cultivator residue. Assigned to Whitesword convoy without inspector disclosure. A second strip listed expected drain rates from 4 named prisoners. Xiao Run. Su Lian. Duan He. 1 space left blank for special capture. Me. The cart had been prepared before Zhao reached Willowbank. Luo could not have arranged it after his defeat. Captain Wen could not call it a field accident. The fort had sent a prison designed to feed on us and concealed the living spine's origin from the inspector carrying it. Lin Mei opened Luo's recovered ledger beside the copper strip. She could read the route names. I could not. The system translated only fragments when I focused: Reed Ferry, South Bank, Black Reed, Delivery, Reactive. Zhao and Lin Mei supplied the rest. The same inventory mark appeared beside 3 shipments in Luo's hand. Independent chain confirmed. Zhao took out Willowbank's remaining order. Captain Wen said, Inspector, recategorization before fort review exceeds custom. Not authority. If the vessel escapes tonight, the court will say you protected rebels. If he escaped at the Mulberry Bend, your prepared declaration would have punished a village before review. He returned to custody instead. One looked at me. For now. For law, now is where evidence exists, Zhao said. She wrote on a fresh bamboo strip while medic he treated the wounded. Her wording was slow enough for translation to carry. Willowbank was designated a protected evidence site for 30 days. No grain seizure, collective punishment, forced relocation, or arrest for acts during the Dragonfall response. The status did not depend on continued custody of Chen Kai. Revocation required Zhao's personal seal or 3 registered magistrates stating evidence in writing. Elder Shun's copy would be amended by courier. The Southern Registry would receive another. Zhao pressed her seal into red wax. Then she gave the order to Lieutenant Gao's relief rider, a woman named Pei and whose horse had survived both attacks. Ride now. Do not stop at Blackreed Fort. Deliver to Willowbank, obtain Elder Shun's mark, then carry the duplicate to the Southern Registry. Pei tucked the bamboo case under her armor and rode north before Captain Wen could invent another contingency. I watched until reeds hit her. The rescue line to Willowbank no longer ran through my shackles. That did not make the village safe forever. 30 days was a held door, not a wall. It was enough that my next escape would not automatically send cavalry to their grain store. I used 1 5-point mending breath stabilization pulse on Xiao's reopened arm while Su Lian bound it. Current essence, 66. The pulse slowed local bleeding. It did not restore blood or close the whole wound. My own full treatment still held, though the broken rib, thigh channel, muscle tears, palm burns, eye strain, cold exhaustion, and azure tremor remained. Zhao replaced my wrist cords but did not restore the draining net. You chose custody twice. I chose the people attached to it. Do not expect the fort to honor the distinction. Do you? She considered before answering. I am beginning to. Lin Mei climbed onto the prisoner wagon as if that settled her place. Xiao made room. Duan handed her the cane. Su Lian gave Captain Wen's spare cloak to the half-frozen royal shieldman instead of keeping it. Enemies and prisoners had saved one another without becoming friends. By late afternoon, the convoy moved again. The road rose out of the reeds. Black Reed Fort waited beyond the ridge. For the first time since the net fell in Willowbank, I could have escaped later without making Eldershin pay for my footsteps. For the first time, remaining in the convoy was entirely my choice. I stayed because Qiao, Su Lian, and Duan's names had been printed on a feeding strip. Because Luo's ledger listed more. Because a fort that grew prison carts from failed cultivators needed to be seen from the inside. And because choosing a cage for a reason is not the same as accepting the lock. The climb to Blackreed Ridge took 4 hours. No monsters attacked. That did not make it easy. Several horses had died in the first assault and 4 more at the ford. 2 wagons had broken axles. The freed maulers had vanished into the marsh after Zhao marked their collars as destroyed. Cavalry walked beside wounded mounts. Prisoners pushed the evidence wagon uphill because the copper strips inside mattered to us more than comfort. Captain Wen ordered Luo and his 6 surviving soldiers to push as well. Luo refused until Zhao attached his wrist chain to the rear axle. After 10 steps, he discovered cooperation. I did not use furnace muscle. The hill punished that decision honestly. Body 8 moved the wagon. Torn back fibers shook. Speed 7 helped me place my feet before the load rolled. Spirit 4 made the dragons easier to hear separately, not easier to silence. My stabilized thigh held, but the spear channel burned on every incline. My broken rib shortened my breath. The palm burn made the push bar slick. Duan set the pace. Xiao steered one-handed. Lin Mei placed stones behind the wheel whenever we stopped. Su Lian walked beside Medic He and checked every wounded person, royal or captive. Zhao took the forward rope with ordinary soldiers. Captain Wen rode until his lame horse stumbled, then dismounted without being told. Power mattered. So did whether everyone pulled at the same time. At the ridge crest, Zhao called a halt before the fort came into view. She wanted records made while witnesses could still speak without wardens listening. The convoy clerk counted aloud. 45 cavalry personnel had entered the ford. 4 died there, 7 carried serious wounds, and the rest remained able to march. Both drivers lived. Medic He lived. Payan had departed with Willowbank's amended order. Formal prisoners remained 11, me, Xiao, Su Lian, Duan, Luo, and 6 core hunters. Lin Mei remained an unsummoned witness under inspector protection, not a prisoner. The distinction went on to bamboo in Zhao's hand. Read it back, Lin Mei demanded. Captain Wen stared at her. Zhao read it back. Lin Mei had come to catch the sentence someone might later alter. Now Zhao had to read it back in front of everyone. The system panel cleared when I sat on a dry stone. Chen Kai. Level 2. Body 8. Speed 7. Spirit 4. Perception 6. Will 8. Current Essence, 66. Learn Techniques, Mending Breath, 5 per Stabilization Pulse or 15 per full treatment. Ember Fist, 5 per activation. Stable Wind Step, 20 per activation. Furnace Muscle remains provisional and unsafe. Balance Visibility, locked. Core Ledger, locked. Injuries, left thigh puncture broadly stabilized, residual opposing energy channel, rib fracture, right shoulder tear stabilized, left forearm arrow wound stabilized with finger numbness, side cut stabilized, back and thigh muscle tears, bilateral calf and foot strain improved but present, palm abrasion and renewed heat/suppression burns, blood loss, eye strain, cold exhaustion, azure suppression tremor, resolved with residual hand shake. Recommended, food, warmth, sleep, medical care, no furnace muscle. I showed no on the panel, but I repeated the useful parts to Su Lian. She approved the last recommendation with unnecessary enthusiasm. Bounded immortality remained what it had been in Willowbank, agelessness and possible fueled repair, not invulnerability. Both cores destroyed would end me. Decapitation before reconnection could end me. A soul attack could cut my will away. Essence starvation followed by mortal trauma could end me. Opposing dragon weapons could block repair. One pinned core could let the other spirit force control. Nets, poison, drowning, smoke, crushing, cold, heat, disease, exhaustion, blood loss, surprise, and a large formation could create the time needed for any of those endings. I had survived water, restraint, blood loss, cold, formations, and a 1-core pin in 1 day. Surviving counters did not cancel them. It meant other people had cut ropes before the counters completed their work. Lin Mei sat beside me. The order reached Willowbank? Not yet. Her mouth tightened. But Payan has a faster horse than anything left here. One no longer has a dispatch seal. Zhao's copy and the registry copy agree. That is as much as we can hold from this road. She considered, then nodded. Held door. She had learned the phrase. Held door, I agreed. Below the ridge, a bell sounded once. Duan went pale. That is the outer count, he said. They know how many bodies approach. A second bell answered, lower. Spirit count, Xiao translated from Duan's expression before he spoke. The dragon stopped arguing. Zhao stood. Her white sword floated free of its scabbard. From this point, she told Captain Wen, no prisoner leaves my sight without a written transfer. Wen looked toward the unseen fort. Warden Pang holds royal custody authority. I hold forbidden vessel authority. And if they conflict? Then the record will show who drew first. That was not reassurance. It was the sharpest promise Xiao knew how to make. We pushed the wagon over the ridge. Black Reed Fort filled the valley below. Black Reed Fort had been built to look dry. Square stone walls rose from marshland on pilings black with tar. For towers watched the road. White banners hung without moving, the wind bent the reeds below. A broad moat surrounded the outer wall, its water covered by a skin of ash. No birds landed there. Behind the battlements stood 3 inner buildings and a chimney that released no smoke. The chimney inhaled. Every few breaths, gray vapor pulled downward into it from the sky. Dragon eyes hurt before I fully opened them. The wall carried layered suppression essence. Gold from royal seals. White from grave reed. A mirrored affinity beneath both that reflected my own blue and red pressure back toward the cores. I shut the sight immediately. Do not stare at the walls, Duan said. They notice. The outer gate opened in sections. First iron bars. Then a white reed curtain. Then 2 slabs of black wood bound with copper mirrors. A man in dark green robes waited inside. He was thin, clean-shaven, and smiling as if we had arrived for a tax inspection. Copper keys hung from his sleeves. Inspector Zhao, he said. Warden Pang regrets that the road damaged royal property. He looked at the wounded soldiers after he said property. Zhao dismounted. Your cart spine was corrupted by its own undisclosed feedstock. An unfortunate field reaction. We recovered the registration strip. His smile remained. His left thumb stopped moving against one key. Visible physical evidence. Not a confession. Not a thought. Zhao ordered the evidence wagon through first. Warden Pang ordered the prisoners separated before entry. Their commands met in the gate tunnel. No transfer without writing, Zhao said. Sorting is not transfer. What does sorting determine? Sleeping quarters. Medical priority. Spiritual safety. Su Lian made a sound that needed no translation. Tables waited beyond the gate. Each held white tiles marked with characters I could not read. Wardens in padded gray coats used bone needles to test blood, breath, and reactions to mirrored bowls. Prisoners from earlier convoys stood in 6 lines divided by colored rope. Red rope for heat affinity. Blue for water or wind. Yellow for body reinforcement. White for no useful reaction. Black for unstable. Useful. The word from Luo's ledger returned. The people in the white line looked the most afraid. Zhao kept her sword visible. Warden Pang produced a bamboo rule authorizing intake classification. The language barrier thickened inside the mirrored gate. His formal dialect translated as fragments unless he faced me. Zhao and Lin Mei understood. Duan whispered plain meanings when he could. Xiao's fairy token earned him the blue rope after a bowl of water trembled near his hand. Su Lian's herbs and weakwood affinity earned yellow, though she argued until they marked her as a medical witness. Duan received black because he knew the fort and had once deserted it. That is not spiritual sorting, I said. Warden Peng faced me, allowing the cores to catch his reply. Instability includes behavior. Convenient. You will find convenience is one of civilization's load-bearing virtues. I disliked him immediately. That was emotion, not evidence. I kept the difference clear. Lin Mei held up Zhao's witness strip before a warden could touch her. Zhao placed her beside the inspector's table, outside all 6 ropes. Then they brought Luo forward. Warden Peng's smile finally changed. Captain. Your delivery is late. Luo lifted his chained hands. The vessel disrupted field operations. Release me, and I can still explain the losses. Zhao dropped Captain Wen's prepared declaration, the copper feeding strip, and Luo's ledger onto the table. You may explain all of it, she said. The fort clerk opened the ledger. Lin Mei moved close enough to read over his arm. Her face went still. What? I asked. The mirrored walls broke my word into 2 echoes. She took the ledger before the clerk could close it. 2 wardens reached for her. Zhao's sword lowered between them. Lin Mei read the entries aloud, slowly enough for the translation to catch. Read Fairy. Xiao Ren delivered. Xiao gripped the blue rope. South Bank. Su Lian delivered. Su Lian's broad hands closed. Stable deserter. Duan he requested for mirror trial. Duan stopped breathing for a moment. Those were not merely route plans. The fort had acknowledged receipt before their convoy arrived. The ledger treated intended captives as inventory already owned. Lin Mei turned 1 page. Below the fresh entries lay older names marked with cell numbers. Han Mu, Reed Ferry Boatman. Cell 3. Xiao whispered, my brother. Yi Fin, South Bank Midwife. Infirmary below. Su Lian said, she vanished in spring. Ma Ji and Ma Jun, Willowbank road laborers. Mirror Hall. I remembered Elder Shen counting missing people beside burned roofs. 2 names on a waxed route sheet had become 2 living men behind this wall. Lin Mei reached the final line. Her voice changed, but it did not break. Lin Chao. South Bank Weaver. Reactive to blue. Lower holding. Her aunt. The person whose village name she had touched in Luo's packet at Willowbank was not a future target. She was already here. A bell rang beneath our feet. Not outside. Below. Every mirror bowl on the sorting tables rippled at once. Blue light rose from one, red from another, then both colors turned toward me. The warden stepped back. Warden Pang looked at my chest with professional hunger. Zhao's sword came up. Behind the inner wall, dozens of prisoners began shouting names through stone vents. The translation could not carry all of them. Pain, distance, dialect, and mirrored interference broke the voices apart. But names do not need perfect translation when someone is answering a ledger. Black Reed Fort had counted people as material. Now we knew they were alive. I wrapped my burned hand around the remaining piece of my rescue rope. The gate closed behind us.